Welcome to another episode of Parenting Teens Advice Redefined for Today's World, where we have the real and raw and honest conversations on our teens, how to support them, and how to raise human beings into this world. We are not just raising kids to get them out of the house at 18, we're raising them so that we have a relationship with them. And today we have Dr. Sam Shay, DC, IFMCP. He is a functional medicine expert, speaker, and advocate for neurodiversity with over 25 years of experience helping people move from surviving to thriving. Beyond his clinical work, Dr. Sam is a stand-up comic who uses humor as edutainment to help others understand life on the autism spectrum. His 1-hour special, Neuro Spicy, Love, Life, and Comedy on the Spectrum blends insight with wit and is available for free on YouTube. Highly recommend. What makes Dr. Sam uniquely relatable to parents of neurodiverse teens is that he lived it. After years of undiagnosed struggles, including exhaustion, anxiety, and social overwhelm, he not only healed himself, but also embraced his own neurodiverse brain. And today we are talking about the real experience of teens on the autism spectrum in high school, the good, the hard, and everything in between, and what it's like to be a kid with ASD and normie parents. Let's dive into connection, understanding, and practical support. Welcome, Dr. Sam Shay.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and I'm just so grateful for your focus of your podcast because I so wish to speak directly to the parents and I wish to support them. And my I was a child of the 80s, and both my parents were psychiatrists, and they were not, they had a very specific paradigm of what parenting and what health was. And mostly it was the children should be seen and not heard, and any problems were the child's fault, specifically an SSRI deficiency. And there was no language or understanding around neurodiversity. And it turns out later I figured out that my father is actually further down the spectrum for me than I am from normies. And my mother is very much on the normative side of it. So I was actually caught in this no man's land in between them, where I couldn't understand my father's behaviors and my mother couldn't understand mine. And I couldn't relate to either of them. And so I had to develop, I become like a translator in both directions because I had to be. And so I have this very odd role for families where I can translate in both directions of what's going on. And then also being able to thoroughly understand how confusing it is for some people who are on the more neurotypical side, trying to understand someone on the spectrum side, because I had to do that with my father. And my wish, and it's one reason I made the comedy show. And the comedy show, by the way, is for parents listening to this. Like it's clean. There's no cursing. There's no politics. There's no gratuitous body fluid jokes. It's designed to be watched together. I would say it's PG-13, not because of words, but because the content can be a bit heavy for individuals under 13. Though, depending on how intellectually advanced your child is, they may be able to totally understand it at age 8. Depending on how the diversity expresses itself. So this was the 60 minutes I wish I heard and my parents heard 30 years ago. And I decided I wanted to be part of the solution. If I couldn't do it for myself, I could do it for others. And that's how I came to do this. And my hope is that parents and just families in general who have a neurodistinction, neurodiversity spectrum, whatever word you want to use, that's woven into the family unit, that the comedy show is a major bonding point and education point and clarification and just clarity amongst everyone about like what's going on. And now there's a shared reality, a shared sense of words, a shared understanding that then can be used as a platform to then create a much tighter knit, more deeply understood and connected family. I did not have that. And so this is my, this instead of me shaking my fist at the universe, this is me trying to be the solution in the world that I wish I had. And so there's like there's that educational piece, and then the other piece is the parental resilience and health piece that my parents didn't have. My mother and father did not take care of themselves in terms of like their sleep, their diet, their pain levels. My mother was taking pain medications for decades, and as you probably aware, certain pain medications lower empathy. That's part of their mechanism because they lower the emotional component of pain. And so I had a mother who was less than empathetic because she was drowning in certain painkillers to deal with her unrelenting back pain. And what happened was that their low resilience absolutely affected and influenced the dynamic of me and my sisters and the whole family. And so one of my philosophies that I want to share is that, trying to help the child may work, but helping the parents will always help. And always. And because my parents were fixated on pathologizing me, and that didn't work. And they did not work on themselves, whether because they felt they were above it or whatever, or that they didn't need it, or that they could just power through it, or that they didn't have time for it because they're busy trying to raise 4 kids or whatever it was. What happened was that they didn't model good behavior, and I saw that. All their words, I remember quite distinctly my mother yelling at me to like change my habits, and in my head I was like, and I'm like 12 years old, and I'm already calling my mother a hypocrite in my head. I'm already doing that. I'm like, she's a hypocrite. Like, I'm not going to listen to her because I'm watching what she does. They didn't model behavior and good behavior. And so the thing that I wanted to share with parents was like, not only just how important it is to model really good, healthy habits, but there's also tools to help you figure out what the optimal healthy habits are, like say genetics testing, to know what's your ideal diet, what's your ideal exercise, what's your ideal nutrients. Like like you can actually have a customized template to follow that you can model, and you can save yourself a lot of time, energy, headaches, and finances by just getting some testing to know what you should be modeling, and there's no ambiguity. And then in the 80s, it was all guesswork. I mean, it was like SpaghettiOs and ramen noodles was your health lunch. There was no templates, there was no testing that was really widely available. So those would be the things that when we initially chatted before, I was like, you're the first person that actually is in the niche I've been trying to find for such a long time. I want to talk to parents of people, of children on the spectrum. This is who I want to talk to. And I'm just so grateful to be here, Cheryl. Like, this is what I've been looking for a very long time.
Well, I am so excited for this conversation, and I want to talk about the YouTube stand-up. I want to get into that because
please do.
I feel like I've watched it a couple of times now, and I feel like it's this cross between a YouTube comedy stand-up and a TED Talk. Like that's what I feel like, because there's, like you said, there's some heavy conversation in there, and the fact that you bring humor to it makes it so relatable for other people to go, oh man, like that must be hard. But when you're not into this heavy accusatory conversation all the time, people get defensive and they don't want to hear it.
Right.
Or they don't put themselves, and especially parents would not put themselves in that, I'm a good parent, I don't know what you're talking about. So
I did some field research on the show. I made sure to ask the parents after I did perform the shows, the normie parents, did you at any point feel ever attacked? And they're like, no, not at all. Not once. Yeah. No. Yeah. I made it a point. I made it a very strong point to not make air quotes, normies enemies. Not at all. That is not going to help anybody. It's no. So I have, like, there's several, spectrum comics out there, and I have some issues with some of them. I won't name names, but I feel like there's a tendency for spectrum comics to either dunk on the normies or self-immolate, or be a zoo animal.
Yeah.
And I don't like either of those approaches. And I can understand why they would choose that direction. I totally get it. But it's not my approach. I feel like comedy is one of the most effective vehicles for truth and bringing people together, or it can be divisive, and like it's a tool. It's a very sharp knife.
Yeah.
It's very, very sharp, and you can cut it however you want.
When you say that this is, and I agree with you, that I wish parents 30 years ago had watched this. I wish every parent would watch this. I would love to know if you could imagine sitting down with your parents 30 years ago and watching this with them. What would the conversation be?
So that's tricky, because that's very tricky because personally, my parents have a tremendous amount of ego, and my father just fully identifies with the mind. And he's got 2 doctorates plus a MacArthur Award, 2 books. He almost had a 3rd doctorate. He just didn't bother finishing his dissertation. And anytime he faces criticism, he dual wields his doctorates like samurai swords. And so so I don't know if he would even be able to take criticism simply because he's just so defensive from an intellectual level, and he fully identifies with his mind, and so I just don't know. And from my mother's side, she is a retired psychiatrist after 40 plus years. She is a self-described, by her own words, a narcissist. So I don't know how much she would be able to receive it, because it then shifts the focus of attention away from me. As growing up, I was the one being pathologized, as opposed to it would have forced her to look at how she would have needed to have changed her approach, as opposed to shame me into changing the way that I basically trying to shame me into different brain chemistry. And so I honestly don't know if that would have changed anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do think that if my teachers, a section of my teachers and the school principal and other parents, and particularly other parents of other children who were cruel to me and violent towards me in school, there would have possibly been a much different conversation between those parents and their kids and the teachers and those kids. That would have definitely made a difference.
Thank you for that. That makes actually a lot of sense to me too. And so I guess I want to ask then, because and the whole premise
let me add one other thing.
Of course, yeah.
I showed it to my sisters. I think a meaningful shift would have happened. I think there would have been because all of us siblings, when their parents went through that nuclear divorce, all of us siblings just kind of retreated into our own corners. And I think if they had seen that, there would have been a bit more cohesion amongst the siblings to better rally and support each other. That may have been a real thing that may have shifted in the family.
Yeah.
And I've never actually thought of that. And so thank you for prompting that in my own head.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the whole, we talked about the premise of the podcast is it's not them, it's you, as you clearly spoke. You want to speak to the parents. And when I say that, it's never, in some cases it could be, but from my perspective, it's not a slam to the parents. It's more of, that's where the magic happens. Because if you can see that it's not them, it's you, you're the one in control of being able to change, to learn, to grow, to have communication with your kids and resources that you don't even know are out there. And that's why I really love this. I love that you want to talk to the parents. So tell me, thinking boots on the ground in the house, can you think of maybe one or two situations where you would have said, no, I mean, to a parent who's willing to change, even a parent currently, where they might be coming up against it. And, you know, I always think that when we behave, and behavior is just a communication, when we behave, much of it is out of fear.
So
Fear of the unknown.
I'm losing who the subject object is. So who's the we you're referring to?
I'm talking about parents who are not responding, not learning, not growing.
Okay.
When they have a kid who has autism, Aspie, as you call them, in the sense that, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to react. And instead of the growth aspect, the mindset, it is, I'm scared. And so I'm reacting out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say more about that to parents? Like,
sure, 100%. So we are, the contrast of when I grew up in the 80s versus now, which was literally 40 years later, because my parents' divorce happened in in the process was finalized in January 7th, 1987. So we're talking like 39 years ago.
mm-hmm.
So what I would say is to parents that are concerned, scared, overwhelmed, or otherwise just activated by what their child or children are exhibiting or going through or anything like that, is there is an infinitely larger number of resources like this podcast, to name just one, for parents. That did not exist 40 years ago. So if you are scared, overwhelmed, confused, or frankly upset, or even disappointed or ashamed of what's going on, which I don't like, as a human to human, I can understand that impulse. Even though I was on the receiving end of that disappointment and shame, and it was incredibly painful and formative, I can understand the human impulse to feel those things. So I'm not going to completely demonize anyone for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beacon. It's like you signed up to go to Disneyland and you end up going to the Lego shop. Like it's like that was your hope for, having a child that was more normative, and you ended up with it's different. It's you have to have a different experience. You have different needs. There's different complications. I call someone on the spectrum has like their select superpowers and a buffet of kryptonites.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way I understand it. It's a select superpowers, buffet of kryptonites. And I talk about kryptonites on my show. I spend over 3 minutes of a 60-minute show and can say the most Aspie statement ever. That's about 5% of the show. 3 minutes is devoted just to sound sensitivity. Like I have crushing, debilitating sound sensitivity. Like it's hard for me to go to a restaurant or even sit at a dinner table. Someone clatters a knife. It's like a kidney stone going off in my skull. And it's I certainly didn't sign up for this, but it's what I got to deal with. And for someone to like just double over as if I was hitting the gut with a punch at sound, and everyone else is like turning and staring at me, but I am in so much debilitating pain, and it's embarrassing, not only to me, but of course when I was a child, to my parents. And they thought I was attention seeking or acting out or exaggerating and all that. There was no understanding whatsoever on the sound sensitivity. And by the way, like I went to go see an audiologist, a medical audiologist, and it turns out, and this was last year, I have a 40 decibel handicap at high pitch noises. So most people feel pain at 80 decibels with high pitch sounds. For me, it's 40.
Oh my God.
It's 40. It's half.
Yeah.
Low pitch, it's 60 decibels instead of 80. So I've got, and it totally matched my lived experience, like high pitched noises. Like I do the hands cover and shriek and bend over as if I just got hit.
Yeah.
And that I can't control. It is so painful, so suddenly, so unexpectedly, that it's a full body stress response. So as a parent, if you're like confused, overwhelmed, disappointed, ashamed, whatever, I understand that. I actually do. So what I would recommend is, number one, listen to more podcasts like this, and find and connect to other communities. Like, there's meetup groups, there's Facebook groups, there's organizations out there. Like, I do fundraising for some of these organizations. Like, I was the fundraising comic for the Firefly Autism.org's annual fundraiser last year. It is in May. So I you can, there are larger groups out there to find other parents. And so you don't feel so alone and lost in the wilderness, and you have other people who've been further down the road. And you don't have to feel alone or ashamed or confused, because there's other people going through this with you. There's tons of books out there. Dr. Tony Atwood's The Complete Guide to Asperger's Syndrome, he published, in 2019. It was like 16 hours in audiobooks, and it was very strange listening to someone describe my life that I have never met before in 16 hours. Like, it was very bizarre. So there's books, there's podcasts, there's groups, and then from and then there's getting support and resources. That's one bit, which is very valuable and important, and I believe absolutely necessary. Then there is, what is the mindset towards navigating your child?
Yeah.
And so the mindset that I would, the primary emotion that is most important to convey, to emit, to radiate, is caring. That's the one. It's not even love. It's not love. It's caring. Like, caring. If you can just emit care, that's going to be the most stabilizing emotion for the whole family. And I'm troubled to think of a close second. It's not even kindness; it's caring. And I know some people may be like, well, what's the difference? There is a nuance to it. Kindness is a kindness almost seems like some sort of giving a favor, or like there's a power dynamic going on. Caring, there doesn't need to be a power dynamic to be caring. Caring can go in any direction of any power structure in any way. But what it establishes is a deep, positive, valenced bond that is palpable. And I talk about caring in my show. I'm not going to spoil the context of what that was in, but it's at the end, and it was that whole last 15 minutes was based off of, and this really happened to me. I was giving a lecture in front of 300 of my colleagues, other functional medicine practitioners, and I gave a short talk on Asperger's syndrome and humor. And I leave the conference, and this woman comes up to me, and she said, non-ironically, totally seriously, very sincerely, she said, "Oh, you have Asperger's? Is it hard for you to feel love?" She asked that.
Oh my God.
And like, the thing that was so painful was that she felt totally comfortable to ask that of me, as if I was some sort of like vending machine of like I'm some sort of robot.
Yeah.
And so when she asked me that, I talk about that moment in the show, and then I use that as I then spend the next 10 minutes unpacking that question and answering it. And really wrestling with it, because I tell you, when she asked me that question, it was totally destabilizing to hear it. And luckily, I was in my humor writing class at the time, working with my comedy instructor, And I came to class like shaking, and I was like, guess what happened? I got super traumatized. It's material. Let's do it. It's gonna be super funny.
Oh my God.
So we spent and this was October. Like, I performed the show in June of 24.
Mm-hmm.
This was October of 23 when this happened.
Wow.
So that became this is also the value of comedy, is you can you learn how to wrestle with difficult topics in public, and but not after you've processed it in public.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I shared it in the show. It's been said that art is the receipt for pain. My addendum to that is that yes, and stand-up comedy is itemizing that receipt in public.
Yeah. Love it. I want to go back to the caring.
Yeah.
Because it's very typical for someone on the spectrum to take things very literally, correct?
100%. I literally have a whole section on my show on literalism. Yes.
Yes. So what I want to ask you, for parents who don't
in the dating section, when she asked,
oh God.
I don't understand why I'm still single, and I give a literal answer, and then there's then I have to drive home alone.
A lonely drive home.
Lonely car ride home. Yes.
But I want to ask, so for parents who can't really feel that, don't have the empathy for that at the point, how do they display caring to the kids who are going to, they might, I did this, so they must know I care. I did this, so they must know I care. And yet it's very nuanced. So how would you as a kid know that your parent cared? What can they do? What can they say to make it very clear?
This is very clear to me. Thank you for asking this question. I don't think I've ever articulated this before. So the lowest bar to demonstrate care is to not be a hypocrite. That is the lowest bar to jump. Just don't be a hypocrite. Do what you say what you do. Don't be a hypocrite. And don't think that we're not watching, because the thing about being on the spectrum is that we see, you ever see Toy Story, the original Toy Story?
Yeah.
Okay. We see does that head twist thing?
Yeah.
Everything, at the very end. We do. And that's not because we're spying. It's because it's part of the full package of being on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. We observe this whole thing of signal to noise ratio. Yeah. People have normies have these natural filters of what's signal and what's noise. We have no filters. It's all signal. We literally observe everything. Like everything is data. Yeah. We see everything. And so, and we have to build our social software from scratch and have to create the pattern recognition software. Yeah. And so we see everything. And so when we see someone do something different from what they said or implied, that creates, it's like a record scratch in the brain.
Yeah.
And so the lowest bar to demonstrate care is to not be a hypocrite.
Oh my God. And that's in any case for kids, but yes, yes, I can't agree more on that one.
Here's the other thing. It's not only do we see everything, we remember everything. Mm-hmm. So we have this massive database of every single lie and infraction and hypocrisy. And so for us to update our software that you are a new person or that you are caring, it's not going to be a one-off thing. Well, I did the thing, so therefore I care. It's no, you're dealing with a backlog here. You're dealing with backlog. So we have to, and we will see the new behavior, acknowledge it, and it's now being cross-referenced against however many incidences to the contrary. And we're pattern recognizing masters. We are a master of pattern recognition. That's why we're able to innovate in technology and art and science, and as a subset of the human experience. We are the ones who push the technology forward. There's books written on this.
Yeah.
That we are the pattern recognizers extraordinaire. So a one-off is not a pattern. Sorry, that is literally the opposite of a pattern. That is definitionally not a pattern. A one-time thing. We have to see it consistently for it to be a pattern.
So, and I say this so often in my podcast, is okay, your parent is sitting right here, right now, and we're going to meet them where they're at.
Mhm.
They've been parents like you had, or hopefully not as bad,
Hopefully.
but they're at this point. I would love to say it's not too late. It's not too late to turn it around now.
Mhm.
If that's the case, and you have a teenager, and you're just watching this podcast and you're like, oh my God, the light's on. I need to have a conversation with my kid.
Mhm.
What am I saying to them? Now, I know actions later, but in order to open that door to say, hey, I just heard this podcast. I just listened to Dr. Sam Shay. And man, I have been effing this up for the last 14 years.
Mhm.
Now, what am I saying to my kid?
Interesting. Let me just war game that out in my head a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. If we're talking about, if the goal is to reconnect,
Yeah.
and to establish care, and it's unlikely going to make amends in the moment to everything that's ever happened and all the misunderstandings. So I think like the really get clear on what's a realistic goal. I think the realistic goal will be to establish open lines of communication and look at creating opportunities to build more trust. It may not be capable to rebuild trust in one conversation vis-a-vis what we just talked about.
Yeah.
You know, a point of clarity, a point of lucidity is not a pattern.
Right.
So there's a couple of things I would say. One is maybe not necessarily talk to them right away, maybe actually change the behaviors first. So there's some visual street cred that's built up first, as opposed to, because it may just sound like another empty promise, another thing, another expectation built up that you may just be seen as a failure at if you don't, whatever, keep your agreements. So one thought is to not actually bring it up and to actually just make the changes, keep your word, not be a hypocrite, and then also do more self-care. And like not every, it's like just do the actions to have more, be the better person you want to be and model for your kid. Do that for some unknown amount of time. And then ideally, your kid may notice and may hopefully say like, hey, I've just noticed that you've been doing things a bit differently and you're certainly more caring and like it's easier to be around you. What happens? Like, oh, I listened to this podcast. I watched this comedy show. I did this genetics test and I've been like, I have my blueprint. I have my blueprint for my health. I have a blueprint for understanding neurodiversity. I have a template and you know, from podcasts I listened to, like, and I've really just decided I needed to demonstrate the changes first before trying to say anything. And thank you for noticing. If you were interested, I'd love to share with you what Dr. Shay talked about. He did a comedy show describing his experience. And I just found it so valuable and I feel like I can better understand what's going on. And I've made changes to become a better person. I'm deeply sorry for the misunderstandings and the damage I may have caused. I want to do better. I would like us to kind of see if we can restart and just reestablish our connection. Because you're going to go off into the world now, and I want you to feel like you have a parent as opposed to a stranger that raised you. And that's how my ideal world would go.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Show me first.
Yeah.
I love it. Because how many, by the time your kid's 14 or 15, how many empty promises, hypocritical statements, and actions have you made that you're right, this is just another one. I love doing it in that direction. I think that's so brilliant to do. So, and I wanted to, there's so much to talk about, but I also want to get into the other side of being a teen in high school on the spectrum. And like I know there's probably, you know what? No, I want to go back to the screaming. I have to do this first.
Okay, sure.
And I've done a couple of episodes on this because I used to work with kids who were nonverbal and very sound sensitive or light sensitive and demonstrate exactly what you said, covering the ears and screaming, and really had this reaction from the outside world. Like, are you kidding me? Come on, suck it up, whatever. And I just want to say, listen, no teenager wants to do this in front of their peers.
No, they don't.
Nobody wants to.
No.
No adult, but no teenager wants to. No teenager wants to toss the desk. No teenager wants to run out of the school screaming. No teenager wants to be covering their ears and screaming. So when you are sitting there making your judgments and not understanding this, please understand.
Can I just give you one metaphor? I'll give one metaphor that will just explain it all.
Do it.
A dog howls when things are too loud. They have hearing that's 7 times better than ours. The reason they howl is because the internally generated sound acts as a buffer against the externally intrusive sound. Mm-hmm. Self-generate, and you see this. And look, I saw. I've chatted with Temple Grandin, and she mentions explicitly that someone with sound sensitivity or touch sensitivity or light sensitivity, if they can control the sound, the light, the touch, the smell, whatever, their tolerance goes much higher. It's the sudden, unexpected, startling input that is so crushing, it's like a jump scare, but it's something that like a screeching brake from a car can happen at any moment. Mm-hmm. So you're either hyper vigilant, like bracing, or you're trying to just be relaxed, and then the screech hits you and you don't have the bracing. So you either live your life in constant brace and constant feeling like you're bracing and under constant vigilance, mm-hmm. or you're trying to relax into the normative world to then be left vulnerable to an unexpected input. And like a dog will involuntarily howl because it is a way to create some sort of buffer. It may seem odd, like if you're so sound sensitive, why are you adding your own sound? Mm-hmm. Because it's like it's not correct in terms of physics as a phenomenon, but metaphorically it's directionally correct. You have one sound wave canceling out another sound wave. That's not technically correct for the physicist nerds out there in this situation, but it's directionally correct. I don't know a better way to describe it. So we're not trying to make a scene. We don't want to make a scene. We wish we didn't have this kryptonite, but we do.
Yes.
And then what also can happen is that there can be a violent lashing out if there is some sort of that noxious stimulus put in, particularly if the other people in the room are derisive, dismissive, or angry, and the backlash, whether verbally or with rage or with physically, from the person on the spectrum who just was in this massive pain, you have to understand that in that moment of excruciating pain, say from sound, and then followed by derision or ostracism or shame, like the amount of shame we feel plus rage, that so shame and rage are two distinct emotions. So my emotional intelligence coach has defined shame as I'm not on track to embody an ideal, and defined rage as I'm not on track to defend my territory. So my territory is my body autonomy. Yeah. So it could be a rage response because it's like someone just broke into your house. In this case, they broke in through my eardrum. Yeah. There's a rage response, and then there's a shame response because I'm not like everyone else. And literally, this has happened to me. I was at an acoustic, it was at a concert where the guitar was plugged into an amp, and there's like 100 people there. And then he did the thing where the thing shrilled. I screamed, covered my ears, and bent over. And then when I came up, everyone was turned and staring at me, and the guitarist made some snarky comment on stage. And I just wanted to be struck by lightning at that point and just die. And I couldn't control it. I couldn't help it. It was unexpected. And then everyone in that whole thing just turned on me, quite literally. So we do not want this to happen. We are not seeking attention. We wish that this was gone, but it's here. So and And I also invite anyone to reflect on their own experience of if they got a jump scare from something and they had this response of like swat away at the thing. Well, imagine living like that constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? So, yeah, did I answer? Was that helpful?
Yeah, totally. And I want to segue into school as quickly, but I'm going to do that because as you say that, I worked with a young man who could go from one. Our scale was 1 to 5. 1 was no problem. 5, he describes number 5 as batshit crazy.
Yeah.
His description, not mine. And I asked him one day, he was always checking with me every day. And I said to him one day, when you get to a 5, what does it feel like? And he said to me, it feels like there is a wall of flame right in front of my face. And it just moved. I'll never forget it, because if I had a wall of flame in front of my face, I would be throwing desks. I'd be running. I'd be screaming. I'd be doing all the things to protect myself, rage.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it never left me, that feeling. And does he want to do those things? Of course not. He's a 16-year-old boy in high school who just over and over and over again said, I just want to be normal. I just want to be normal. And it just was, we need to be really looking at, go deep on these, on these things with kids. Like, go deep. Don't just, it's not a surface attention thing. And I think people just need to hear it over and over and over again. But so let's go to school for 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
The top, and there's probably 1,000, the top challenges a kid on the spectrum has in high school, like socially, emotionally, academically, what would be the top challenges? And I wanted to talk to not just the teachers listening, but the parents, because now they're in high school. They should be able to look after themselves. I shouldn't have to. Where's the fine line between supporting our kids in high school when it comes to those challenges of social, emotional? How do we support them without holding their hand and taking over, but being able to help them to build those skills, to be able to manage, at least manage the social emotional learning at school, or issues at school?
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, you're asking me how would I inform parents to better help their high schoolers how to navigate the social Serengeti that is the schoolyard in high school. Correct. Okay.
Bingo.
All right. So many thoughts. Okay. So, so for full context, high school was really hard for me. There was, I had a good academic opportunities in the particular high school I went to, but socially it was like the Serengeti. And there was, I experienced a lot of violence, and look, twice people tried to run me down with cars, and it was bad. The violence was just so random sometimes. And because I was called, I'll talk about this in the show, I was called kangaroo because I was in so much stress. I was in a flexor dominance posture where my arms were bent up and I was toe walking. Yep. And that just invited more, apex predators in the school to go attack a spooked deer, basically. Okay, I'll just rattle off a checklist. So first off, going back to talking in the beginning, for parents to model healthy habits. So sleep, diet, exercise, nutrients, daily morning and evening routines, because if there is physiological dysregulation, there's going to be psychological dysregulation. Mm-hmm. That if the number one thing a high schooler needs is to learn resilience, because high school is not friendly. I personally have questions whether the value of the is it a net social positive for a high school, for children to even go to a high school where it's just it feels like it's just it's like the Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
So my so number one is to ensure physiological resilience in first oneself as a parent and model that. And then you can also have your kids run their genetics for their health habits, and then they know their blueprint. But I wouldn't do it unless you as a parent do it also. Don't just pathologize the kid, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Do it as a family. So having a physiological resource and wellspring to draw upon and to ensure that, you say this word over and again, resilience, it's resilience. Physiological resilience will support psychological resilience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would encourage is, if possible, enroll children, teenagers on the spectrum in martial arts, hardcore.
Interesting.
There is and I've lived this. I didn't get into martial arts until I was in my 30s, which I deeply regret. I should have done it 2 decades earlier. People treat you differently without having to say a word when you have gone through several years of martial arts training. I recommend jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because it is, first off, anyone on the spectrum loves jiu-jitsu if they're not overwhelmed by just the process of it, because it is so technical and so granular and so strategic and so algorithmic that it fits. There's people when you listen to podcasters who do jiu-jitsu, they talk about this thing called the phenomenon called the nerd assassin, which is totally a thing in Silicon Valley. You've got these twiggy glasses as thick as a window pane. They just cannot, they look like the nerd, but they will string you in a knot before you can blink because they are so technically proficient because they understand the algorithm of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And they're called nerd assassins, and people don't mess with them. When I went to graduate school, we had a couple there's a couple Navy SEALs in my class, and the room got calmer when they walked in, and they didn't macho themselves in.
Yeah.
They were just so calm because
Amazing.
nothing bothered them. They had been through literal war, and they're just so calm. And when I got my black belt, and I went through that grading, which was a non-trivial grading. It was a public thing. I saw stars 4 times. I got knocked out, almost broke 2 bones. And it was a non-trivial grading. And I would do it 100 times again, totally worth it. And my girlfriend at the time said I looked, acted, and walked and spoke differently after that. And and she said I had the "thou shalt not mess with me" walk, which was completely different.
Amazing.
From being the scared little deer in school that was an easy target for the predatory impulses of these high schoolers. So martial arts, and also it's not just about self-defense and warding off people. The thing about martial arts is that it also teaches you how to fail gracefully and how to win gracefully, especially jiu-jitsu, because you're choked out 1,000 times before you ever successfully choke someone else out.
Yep.
And the good jiu-jitsu student is not the one that wins, it's the one that gets up after they lose.
Yeah.
And so that's important life lessons. How do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with failure? And how do you overcome it? And also you develop quite a literal proximate community, because they're on top of you trying to do a muck. Jiu-jitsu is ritual killing of each other over and over and over again, and learning how not to be ritually killed. And you just help each other grow and develop the skill tree. Yeah. So and I've talked about this with other people. One friend of mine in particular, he started martial arts in grade school, but didn't actually achieve a level of real proficiency till mid high school. But he said he noticed the difference in over the course of 1 month. There was some invisible transition where all the bullies in the school that used to bother him just gave him a berth and just never bothered him again. And he didn't
Wow.
say or do anything differently at all. It's just the vibe changed.
Amazing. The
Changed.
energy. Yeah.
I'm not a big person. I'm barely 5'6", but I've been the doorman at events, and I've had two. This is a true story. Like, and this was back several years ago. But
Lie.
Say again.
You can't lie.
I can't.
I watched the video.
Yeah. We can't lie. Like, it's a problem. Like, so what happens is that in the show, you'll get the joke. Okay.
Yeah.
What happened was there was these two college bros, like big, like hats on, t-shirt, jeans. And they're like, two of them literally double my size. And I just look at them, and I'm looking up at them technically. And I says, "Evening, gentlemen. How are we tonight?" And they're like, they did a double take, and they actually took a small step backwards involuntarily, because they just came up against a honey badger that is a fraction of their size and is utterly undisturbed by the fact that there's two of them that are both double their size. Like, they kind of freaked out a little bit. And I then had a conversation with them and set context for what the event was. And I tell you what, they were very respectful going in and didn't cause any trouble. And I was this little doorman, but the vibe was so clear that, and quietly, although the women in the waiting in the thing were like, "Thank you." Yeah. And it's a vibe thing, like, and it's not contrived, it's not fake, it's just absolutely, and that's what martial arts can do. A complete opposite of what happened, and there was no violence involved at all. I didn't need to demonstrate a thing.
Yeah.
So, and I have like a few truly acute regrets in my life. Not doing martial arts when I was a child is one of them.
That's
and
amazing.
that was, yeah.
I had no idea we were going to go down that. Like, honestly, that's so good. Like, it makes so much sense. Look after yourself physiologically and them. Get them into martial arts as soon as possible.
And that's the other big regret I have is I didn't understand my own genetics. I found out when I was 35, not when I was 5 or 15.
Yeah.
Because I had physiological weakness all through high school. Like, I had severe insomnia. I had very bad embarrassing digestive problems. I was in chronic pain from all the injuries that I sustained. I had anxiety. I had depression. I had an eating disorder. I was a sugar addict. I was a video game addict. Like, I did not have physiological stability. I did not have psychological stability. And like, if I had those two things, my own blueprint for my physiology and martial arts to attain self-agency and self-mastery on my physicality, my whole life would have been completely different.
That's amazing. That's gold right there. Right there. I feel like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Okay, Dr. Sam, we need to know. I feel like there's a second episode, because I really want to talk to the educators about this as well. I really want to go down that path so we can give them some awareness and some tools as well. But for today, so tell us where we can find you, where we can work with you. I'm going to drop the link for that YouTube in there for sure. It is a must watch. Even if you don't have a kid on the spectrum, it gives you so much more awareness about what that life is like and how you can support. So tell us all about you and how to find you.
Sure. So the comedy show, you just can go to YouTube, and you'll get the link in the description anyways. But if you go put in Dr. Sam Shay Neuro Spicy or Neuro Spicy Love, Life, and Comedy on the Spectrum, you'll see it. It's a 60-minute show. It'll say, again, being super aspy here, it's an hour and 3 minutes plus, because you have to account for like the opening credits and the end credits and all that. But it's a 60-minute show. Asterisk. And there's also a 12-minute highlight reel as well, if people are wanting to just see like a fifth of the show, just the highlights. The highlights don't really go into the super heavier material. That's still funny, but requires much more context. It's basically the intro and then a lot of stuff around dating and being on the spectrum, which is an absolute pleaser.
Very funny.
I also describe in that I also take the section in that 12 minutes where I describe the differences between narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, which I did as a public service because people on the spectrum are uniquely vulnerable to, quote, aversive personalities like narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths. So I took it upon myself to describe the patterns of those three in a very humorous way, but memorable way. Because I didn't know what those were till much later. So that's for the comedy. Now, for if people want to work with me personally to get their own genetics run, they can just go to drsamshay.com, drsamshay.com. And for the genetics, I have a button that says DNA Decoded, and that's a complete DIY program. It includes the test, the 6-month implementation program, my entire learning library where I direct a camera of me explaining the genes and gene clusters. And then also people do the gold program, the 6 months of group coaching with me as well. So it's an opportunity to, at scale, to help people in a very cost-effective way how to understand their own roadmaps based on their genetics. And I also, if there are people listening that are connected to larger organizations like any spectrum or autism or neurodiversity groups that have a budget and have an annual fundraiser or an annual conference or a medical conference or a teacher's conference or whatever, and they want to hire me to come and give not only my comedy show, but also I have a plenary session about how to make your school or clinical environment more spectrum friendly. I really, really have a mission to educate the gatekeepers, whether there's teachers, principals, social workers, doctors, therapists, counselors, other parents groups, whatever, to bring my comedy show plus an additional more science, like here's the science data, here's all this, like here's the structural things, like actually have like a dialogue that's practical outside the comedy show in a plenary session or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I did that for the American Academy of Therapeutic Humor last year. So in the American Academy of Therapeutic Humor, it's a real organization. Patch Adams spoke at it years ago. And they're promoting laughter therapy and the science behind it. So I was a keynote, and to 250 doctors, I did my full comedy show. They loved it, and then I did an academic session afterwards, sharing to doctors how they can make their clinic spaces more spectrum friendly, like how you schedule appointments, the lighting, the sound, objects available, how you do intake. Like there's an entire subculture of how you make the environment more supportive. And that can be for teachers, it can be for whatever it is. Yeah. So that's how people can reach me, just drsamshay.com. And that's how you can reach me if you want to do the genetics, just schedule a discovery call if you want to talk about going deeper into more functional testing, or if you want to schedule me as a speaker, that's all there. You can find it all there.
And okay, so there's definitely going to be a sequel because we need to talk to educators. Dr. Sam, not only was this the pleasure I thought it was going to be, but this was an absolute honor to talk to you.
That's very kind of you. Oh my God.
Honestly, you have just such a way, and I know people are hearing this, and if there's anything I can ask the listeners right now, you have to be sharing this information. You have to be subscribed so you don't miss anything, but share this information because you just never know who's sitting at home lost as a parent, not knowing what the heck to do. And here's your answer. And so thank you so much, Dr. Sam. We will definitely do this again.
Of course,
really appreciate it. It's amazing. Thank you for listening. Parenting Teens Advice Redefined. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode. I just wanted to share something with you because, parenting teens is not just about managing these challenges that we talk about on all the episodes. It's also about evolving alongside them. And I'm Cheryl, and not only the host of this podcast, but I'm also the creator of Insight to Impact coaching and consulting. And I help you, moms of teens, reconnect with your true selves so you can lead with purpose. You can parent with clarity. You can create stronger, more meaningful relationships with your kids. Because here's the truth. The transformation starts with you. Together, we will break free from the stress and overwhelm. We will rediscover your power. We will create the life and the family dynamic you always dreamed of. If you're ready to start this journey, let's do it. You might just not recognize your life in the next 90 days. It all starts with a call. There's no pitch. There's no pressure. Just a call to see if I can help. We'll talk about your goals. We'll talk about what's making you feel stuck and what might be getting in your way. And everything you need to connect with me is in the show notes. Again, I'm Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me here on Parenting Teens, Advice Redefined for Today's Complex World, and the creator of Insight to Impact Coaching and Consulting. Have a great day.